Sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Chater, but there appears to be a man down there relieving himself against your hedge.
Oh, yes. It looks as if he's starting to flag, doesn't he? Perhaps I'll just pop down, see if he needs a top-up.
Welcome to episode 32 of the Jonathan Creek podcast, where I think after watching this, we both need a top-up.
To be topped off, I think would be. No, wait, is that?
I don't
Is that
know.
what I think
That's
it
not.
means?
Certainly some relief required.
Yeah.
Bit of a stinker. Spoiler.
Yeah, I don't think topped off was the phrase I was looking for at all. What do you mean when you, what's the word if you execute somebody? Colloquially.
Knock them off.
Knocked off. That might be, yeah.
Bumped off.
Bumped off. Any of these, not what I said.
No.
Yeah.
Certainly not jacked off.
No.
Tossed off.
Stop.
Brought off. Got off.
Like the ketchup.
Exactly. How are you?
I am not too bad, Gerry. How are you this week?
Okay, I'm okay, Ian. Considering having to watch this.
You didn't enjoy it?
No. An episode that never seemed to go anywhere. I was about, I'd say, half an hour in, and I am still expecting the A-plot, the mystery, to be revealed.
It's like they tried to transpose Jonathan Creek into Midsummer.
That's unfair in Midsummer.
Yeah, well, yeah, but without any actual events
Murders.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, an episode full of B and C plot.
If that, I think B is generous.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had no interest in what any of these supposed mysteries were.
Yeah, who cares how he gets lottery numbers?
Yeah,
who cares what she's dreaming about?
Oh, the dreaming one was terrible. We'll get to that. Polly had a bad dream, and then she found out why.
She remembered.
Yeah. Okay. I'd rather just get this one over.
I'm sure most people would agree with you. We can get head on to the last couple if we get through this one.
Hopefully it's an improvement on the horizon.
Let's see.
Got a summary?
I do.
Crack on.
In The Sinner and the Sandman, Jonathan and Polly try to integrate with their new community, visiting with new friends and getting involved in some communal activities before a startling discovery is made beneath 5 decades worth of wallpaper. With Jonathan's reputation hanging by a thread and Polly's dreams haunted by the mysterious Sandman, can the pair discover the truth without upsetting the balance of village life, or will the legend of Astrodamus grow unchallenged? Or both?
And do we care?
Yeah.
Yeah. We are in a car.
Yeah, you can tell that it's not a good episode because there's no tension building cold open. Straight to the credits and then a car.
Night time.
They're literally going for dinner.
Yes. On the way to the Gilpin house, as Jonathan worries about referring to Crispin as Dr. Crippen.
Yeah, and they take a shot at Sky Sports for being pointless, which makes no sense. So this is a wrestling critic for Sky Sports, which is pointlessness cubed. So wrestling critics.
Mm-hmm.
So you can understand why a TV writer might not like critics.
Yeah.
And Sky Sports, or Sky maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it fits for the whole, it doesn't hold for me.
No, if you're a wrestling critic on Sky, it's a pretty prominent and big deal. I mean, it might not be worthwhile, it might not be interesting, but it's a major position.
I mean, I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that wrestling is pointless and TV dramas are not.
Yeah, it's all drama. It's all entertainment.
Exactly, for somebody.
I've not watched any wrestling since, who would it have been? Sergeant Slaughter.
I think about 2000 maybe I would have watched it last.
Okay.
Kurt Angle and The Rock.
Right.
That's I don't even know if they still do it.
Don't know.
The Rock's in every single movie that's out right now,
Yeah.
so I guess he doesn't.
Yeah, anyway, back to the car. I think Polly had mentioned that this critic and his wife were friends of her father, golfing buddies or something.
Something along those lines. And I think the wife's a doctor and an artist.
Yeah, she's called Chrissy and is currently working on a church painting. And Polly then condescendingly tells him that they're very down to earth, so he won't have to lower the tone. What a terrible thing to say.
It's a bit cruel.
It wasn't even delivered in a particularly jokey, light-hearted manner. It seemed genuine.
You quite often get this impression that she thinks she's rescued him from this terrible life and that he should be grateful.
100%, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, for allowing him to participate in her life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a ridiculous basis for a relationship.
Yeah, because her life is
Dull.
incredibly dull, boring, yes. Anyway, over at the Gilpin house, they arrive very grand building. But when no one answers, they enter through the kitchen door and find the kitchen itself empty. But there's some water boiling on the stove, so clearly it's not been deserted.
Yeah, well, everything's set up for dinner. There's vegetables prepared, and it looks like they're expected, but the family have vanished, or the couple have vanished altogether.
So as Jonathan sits down himself in the living room, Polly goes to check the studio, and we cut to the struggling Gilpins, who have been bound and tied back to back on some chairs.
Yeah, they're trying to wrestle themselves free, I think, rocking back and forward.
That old trick, yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Polly finds the studio empty, and when the pair knock something over, Jonathan goes upstairs to investigate, and he finds them in the study.
he's shocked, and
He would be, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes to free them immediately.
The only thing that you would do.
We should bear in mind that Jonathan's never met these people.
Outside, Polly appears to have discovered the intruders beside their van, but there is a quick and nice turnabout as we find out that they are in fact who?
It's the Gilpins.
Themselves, yes. And Jonathan has released the burglars.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, they I think had caught them in the act and decided to tie them up. This doesn't happen.
Yeah, secure them until the police arrived.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but I think they maybe are playing on this guy being a wrestling
Critic.
Maybe he's done it in the past. Maybe, he's an ex-pro or something.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jonathan is meanwhile trying to phone the police but has no signal up in the attic.
No. And he turns to find both of them now in Ghostface.
A Scream mask.
Yeah, Ghostface is the character from Scream.
Is he?
Yeah.
Was he around before Scream?
No, it's a generic, that's the whole thing, it's
Yeah.
a generic Ghostface costume.
Ooh,
Mask, yeah.
spooky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he turns around, sees him dressed up like this, and realises what he's done before Polly and the Gilpins rush in to find that the baddies have disappeared, and in fact it is Jonathan who has now come a little bit stuck.
Yeah, he's tied to the banister. They're very unkind to Jonathan at this point.
Yeah, that's...
They're entirely unreasonable. Because they give him no warning that this had happened. You'd think, expecting visitors, they might have left some kind of indication that this has happened. Knowing that he doesn't know what they look like, they might be a bit sympathetic, but no, they're angry with him.
What would you have done in Jonathan's situation?
You would have assumed it was the couple and let them out. Anybody would, unless you knew them.
The next morning, we are at the New Creek household, so they've moved into Polly's family home.
Yeah. Jonathan's made himself a wee cooked breakfast.
He has, but injures himself with a sauce bottle.
Yeah, he's using a very illogical manner to remove the sauce in the bottle. I think science has proven that hitting it makes no difference.
I tend to try and shake it down, force it down with a...
I buy squeezy bottles. So I
Yeah, of course. But if you're in perhaps a burger joint... where
you would shake it and then...
Yeah.
let
You're
it
hoping
pour.
momentum throws it forward. You
Yes.
stop suddenly.
And I do that with the lid on, and then when it's up to the neck, take the lid off and let it pour it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Polly comes in from the garden and has some concerns.
What's that?
She thinks she spotted some Japanese knotweed out in the garden, but she's not sure. She doesn't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So.
But Jonathan, he's still complaining about his injury and explains that he broke his wrist a few years ago.
I don't think that was on screen, was it?
It wasn't on screen, and it's an interesting thing to write in,
Yeah.
without an explanation.
It would be good if it was referring back to an episode or something that we'd seen. That would make a lot more sense. Anyway, Chrissy Gilpin phones, and for some reason Polly apologises.
Again, no idea why.
I think she feels embarrassed by Jonathan's behaviour, even though it was perfectly reasonable and logical.
Yeah. In any case, how does the conversation go?
Okay, so she asks Chrissy whether the police have been able to help, and is obviously told that they haven't. And Chrissy has a jibe for Jonathan, completely unreasonably once again. Asks him if he's planning to spring the Yorkshire Ripper from jail today. It's neither funny nor kind. He looks irritated, and you can understand and appreciate why that would be.
Indeed. Polly then volunteers his services for something.
Yes, he doesn't know what, but he hears her say that he would be happy to fill in.
And when she comes off the phone, she tells him what he's got to do.
Yeah, he's got to help with collecting an elderly member of the parish and taking him to a event or a doctor's appointment.
Hospital appointment, yes. I think it's
Yeah.
a Mr. Upswitch.
Yes, so I guess Jonathan can drive now.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it when Polly's in the car, though. She obviously doesn't let him.
No, she's far too much of a control freak for that.
Yeah. Anyway, Polly's got a committee meeting at the village hall, so she can't do it, which is why she's volunteered Jonathan.
Yes, it's the Leonard Corbin Village Centre, where she is on this committee and is outside the hall when the Reverend Hugh Charter arrives. And they chat about his new baby, and he invites them round for a visit.
Yeah, he appears to be a new character, but I understand he maybe briefly appeared last time.
Well, yeah, if that's what you understand.
I don't know for sure. But I'm trying to remember, was it our dad's funeral? Was that
Maybe,
the church scene?
yeah, I mean, he was uncredited in the last episode, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it didn't stand out for me.
No, I don't remember it. Once the meeting commences, the chair, Horace Greeley, introduces his nephew Warwick to the group. He's over from New Zealand and he's going to be taking minutes.
Yeah, so they get down to the first order of business, compliment the builders and designers on the new building, but he goes on to note how it was made possible and the problem that they now face.
As you know, this has all been largely made possible by the generosity of a local lottery winner, the businessman and chairman of the Rotary Club, Sir Leonard Corbin. His donation to our project was a handsome one, and in recognition of this, it was decided unanimously to rededicate the building in his honour, which presents us with a slight problem, as he's just been arrested and charged with molesting several senior members of the Women's Bright Hour. Warwick?
Yes, details still coming in on this one, but it seems to have occurred at a recent garden party where his passion for pressing the flesh got a little out of hand.
Oh, please.
And since that news broke, more women have come forward with similar accounts of sexual misconduct, including a dental hygienist who claims that he used to put his hands in his pockets and floss himself during treatment, and also an air stewardess who caught him once using the vomit bag for other purposes.
Yes, well, this is not a little embarrassing.
Which is why we need to look at some bold cosmetic adjustments to repair the damage.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the way these moments of, or these incidents of sexual harassment are treated as punchlines.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is before the whole Me Too and the Weinstein scandal, where a bit of sexual assault was still fair game for comedy.
Oh yeah, especially against elderly people. That's hilarious,
Yeah.
obviously. Warwick comes across as a wannabe journalist, doesn't he? The way he presents the...
He's a pain in the arse.
Oh, I don't like him.
No. But he does, however, reveal the suggested new name of the centre. Can you remember what that was?
It was an anagram of Leonard Corbin. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Conrad Bullner? Something, I don't know.
It's not a real person.
I think the group then goes through a list of other potential names, other anagrams.
Well, Warwick has 3 or 4 of them, and he tries to describe who these people might be, imaginary people.
Yeah.
I think one of them's a member of the major government and one of them's a Daily Mail columnist, but they're not real.
No. A disgruntled Hugh agrees that they do have a problem, but he isn't sure about making up names before asking Greeley about his recent joke in the parish newsletter.
Yes, he's not happy.
No. Greeley's a bit of an old busybody, a bit of a gossip.
Yeah, there's apparently a bit in the paper where there's a report of subsidence in the church, and he wonders if it's due to the previous minister turning in his grave.
Over at the Upswitch House, Jonathan turns up. It's another very large building, but unkempt. And he enters with keys from the security holder he finds outside. And upstairs, I think his name's Eric, is that right?
Yeah, Eric Ipswich.
Yeah. He is in his bed and has a stuffed toy in his arms.
Yeah, and he doesn't wake when Jonathan enters or when he calls his name, but when Jonathan reaches for the bear, I think it's a rabbit actually.
It's a rabbit, yeah.
He immediately wakes and pulls the rabbit away.
And after that, he leaves the cantankerous old man to get ready, and in the hall spots a poster for the great Astrodamus.
Yeah, while Jonathan's asking about that, Mr. Ipswich takes a stroke and collapses.
A stroke of what?
Just a stroke.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, Jonathan hears a thud and finds the old guy in some pain and discomfort on the floor. We are next at the Reverend Charter's house.
Yes, I called it the rectory. I don't know what faith they are, but
Yeah, I've got the rectory as well throughout.
we find what the painting that was discussed earlier has turned out to be. It's a crowd scene. and it has been skillfully amended or designed to include the faces of local parishioners of worth, presumably not all the parishioners. And that even includes Polly and Jonathan.
It does indeed. Jonathan is not overly happy. Why?
Because his face has been put on a naked cherub.
Yeah, and I think he is very superficially annoyed at his, well,
Proportions.
cherub.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
He's stupidly unhappy because it's not him, it's just his face.
Yeah, and he seems to have a small penis.
Well, obviously he's got a complex, otherwise it wouldn't be a problem for him.
Exactly. I mean, what are you meant to have painted a full-length feature episode?
That would be an unusual painting and perhaps for a different venue.
Certainly. I think it was painted by a doctor, or his doctor, and
Yes.
he mistakenly thinks that...
No, well, he thinks other people will consider that because the doctor's painted it, it must be anatomically correct.
Why would you consider that? Why would people
Nobody
think
would
that?
consider that. He's just being paranoid. He's obviously got an issue beforehand.
Yeah. I should say we're in the house here with Alison, that's the Reverend's wife.
Yes, and she takes a bit of umbrage when Jonathan says that he hurt his hand whacking the ketchup bottle.
Yeah, this is a running joke and it gets a bit tiresome.
Yeah, she's either thick or not funny. But I don't think she's being funny.
No.
She's just stupid.
She's stupid. I mean, why would he make... Nah.
Anyway, they go up to the baby's nursery.
They do?
And while they're tending to the baby, we get the moment we heard at the top of the show with Jonathan noticing a man peeing in the garden.
Yes, Hugh explains that it is apparently a badger deterrent, human urine.
That sounds like a practical joke that somebody's played on that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He then goes on to talk about the beast from hell setting. This was something that a local on the way back from the pub had apparently seen. What was it, or how was it described?
It's a beast with green eyes, and it was in the rectory garden.
Yeah, huge humpback as well.
Yeah.
I think Hugh mentions that with Jonathan's background, he might be the man to solve it.
I'm sure Polly was aghast.
Well, she was, because she changes the subject to her Japanese knotweed. But Hugh advises that she keep quiet about this, as there will be mass panic in the village, before putting his baby down for the Sandman. And this seems to have an effect on Polly.
Oh, she shudders.
She does.
Not pleasurably. She's clearly visibly unhappy.
She is. We're now out in the woods. I think, is this the woods of the Creek household?
I think, yeah, there's a wood at the end of their garden.
Big garden.
Yeah. We've seen this before with Jonathan and Maddie near the start of the show, when they were having two separate conversations.
Yeah.
Jonathan and Polly are doing much the same thing here. They're talking at cross purposes.
Yes, I think he is moaning still about this painting and of what people will think of him.
Yep. And she's moaning about the knotweed.
Yeah, which may be encroaching on the carrots that her father grew in the woods.
And that makes her shudder some more.
Yes.
And she tells Jonathan about her dreams of an evil Sandman, who's not kind-hearted like the real Sandman, who's not real.
No. And as they leave, we have a point of view shot of them being watched.
Trope.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the Creek house, as they get ready for bed, Polly receives a message from Alison telling her about a decorating party that they are putting on for old Eric whilst he is in the hospital recovering.
Yeah, Polly wants them to participate in this, and Jonathan's okay with it, but he thinks that 10 Rillington Place would be more welcoming than the Upswitch home.
Yeah. I think she reminds him that he has to engage with the locals. This is something they've agreed upon.
Well, she says he's not living in a windmill anymore.
Again, there's another little jibe at him here.
Yeah.
He's probably thinking, yeah, I wish I was still living in that windmill
Or it wasn't
on my
harassed.
own.
Yeah. He laments the lack of rural serenity that they thought they were getting, and I think he's trying to flirt with her a little bit here. She's in her lingerie, and he seems to be a little bit excited here.
Yeah. She ups her annoyance level as a character here by insisting and warming up like a football player before they get down to business.
Yeah, and obviously Jonathan's lost interest by that stage.
And he again moans about this artistic depiction of him.
It's clearly something that's been bothering him long before the painting was created.
Without a doubt.
We get this, it's almost becoming a trope now, David Rennick's love of half-naked women doing exercises.
Yeah. Creepy.
That's a bit weird.
Jonathan is in the bed. I think he's flipping through Greeley's parish newsletter, which mentions the possibility of a knotweed outbreak. But interestingly, according to Jonathan, not about the wild beast that was spotted in the vicarage garden.
Yeah, and they're a bit confused. In fact, they both think it's a bit creepy because they haven't mentioned this knotweed anywhere, apart from to the minister.
Yeah. Anyway, during the night, Polly wakes up in a sweat, like a Vietnam vet, after having an Exorcist-esque nightmare about the Sandman.
Ooh.
Next morning, where are we?
We're over at the old Upswitch House.
We are, where they both turn up to help the other locals with this decoration clean-up party they're having.
Yeah, we get a terrible joke from Alison about finding more of Richard III. I presume this must be around about the time he was dug up in Leicester.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she offers them a choice between helping her strip wallpaper and sorting out some old mail.
Yeah, if I was Jonathan and Alison offered me either stripping or paperwork, I'd be taking the paperwork.
Yeah, he says his wrist is still sore from smacking the sauce out, and she's outraged at his perversion.
Yeah, she looks away in disgust again. So later, as Alison and Polly strip, Polly asks about Mr. Ipswich's unsuccessful Astrodamus act before having a go at Jonathan and his sauce extractions.
Well, Polly doesn't know what's going on in that conversation. She says that it's important for creative people like Jonathan and presumably Eric to maintain stimulation, and Alison says she's heard about enough about Jonathan's stimulation and his ways of spreading his seed.
Yeah, but before Polly can get to the bottom of what she's talking about, they discover a message written under layers of wallpaper.
Yeah, it says will win, and there's some numbers.
242730323 will win.
Yeah.
Whilst it means nothing to Alison, Polly is more agitated when she realises that they are the winning lottery numbers of the disgraced Leonard Corbin. How would she know that?
I think she'd maybe been reading about it and just rang a bell.
Still, really?
I don't know. Do you remember anyone's winning lottery
No.
numbers?
I can hardly remember my own phone number.
I don't think I remember anyone's phone number except my own anymore.
So she once read about... I mean, how many times... To remember a long number like that, you really have to...
Yeah, well, she's remembering the individual numbers, but still.
Yeah, don't buy this.
In the lottery ticket, they would have been in ascending order as well, if they wouldn't have been in that order.
Yeah, this is so contrived.
Yeah.
Jonathan is now on the scene, and they consider the possibilities.
I mean, all this stuff, this mind reading and astral prediction stuff, is all just a trick, obviously. This is a trick. It has to be.
I don't know. Even if there's any way of faking all that wallpaper, which remember the whole room's then got to match, how does he know you're going to come in here at some vague point of the future and take it all off?
But to have come up with the exact 6 numbers, decades before it happened.
Would make the amazing Astrodamus, aka Eric Ipswich, the most impressive clairvoyant who ever lived. A small piece of plaster. Come off here between the two words. Still stuck to the paper, maybe.
And that's significant?
Always safe to assume, Mrs. Chater, there's nothing that's insignificant. You still got that local press report there?
Just said the whole thing was a complete one-off. First time ever he'd done the lottery, just went out and bought a ticket. Completely random numbers on a total whim. Said his wife, Rebecca, 51. It was such a shock. And so unlike him in the first place, I'm still waiting to come back down to earth.
I mean, this is contrived enough, but the little cross coming off away perfectly and a little round bit of plaster.
Yeah, Jonathan finds the missing piece of plaster, as you said, and it has a cross, or perhaps a plus sign.
Yeah, or... No, those are the only two possibilities. Jonathan thinks that gives him a vague line of possible inquiry.
Yeah. He does believe, however, that a strange deception is involved, although he doesn't think that the writing on the wall has anything to do with that. And at this, he stares over at a stuffed toy rabbit.
Yeah, the one we saw Eric grab away from him when he first arrived.
Yeah, it's a red herring, isn't it? I don't think that has anything to do with...
No, it doesn't. and it's a remarkable piece of Jonathan magic.
Yeah. After seeing this, he's worked out there's some grand deception.
Yeah, seeing this and hearing the news report Polly that read out.
Yeah. Back over to the community centre.
It's been renamed.
It has. What was it called?
Ye Old Corn Barn.
Where Polly and Jonathan are now shown some old footage of Ipswich's final act in the village by Greeley. Some old videotape.
It's a bit harsh to say he's bad. It's the idiot from the audience that ruins the trick.
Yeah, I mean, the trick itself ends in disaster when the cards all fall on the grass.
Yeah, the woman does a fake sneeze and throws them on the grass.
Yeah, but this isn't a great trick at all. I mean, every card is the same.
Yes.
Now, that's the type of trick that you would give to, or you would buy My First Magic Box and you would give to a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Some professional performer doesn't. There are far more sophisticated ways of selecting cards, and no magician worth their salt is relying on that type of trick.
That's true.
So it is garbage.
Fair enough. Polly thanks Mr. Greeley at the end of the film for helping them find it, but he laments the harshness of the critics at the time, because this was his final performance. He never performed as Astrodamus again.
Oh, you wouldn't, after being revealed as a complete and utter charlatan. Not even a good magician.
Yeah.
Jonathan, however, seems more interested in the newspaper story detailing Corbyn's win, before going on to suggest the affair will be written up by Greeley in his next newsletter.
Yes, and Greeley agrees that 40 years after his retirement, this could be Astrodamus' greatest hour. Because people are not as cynical as Jonathan. They're going to take it for what it looks like.
Yeah, they may believe it's the real thing. We're in the village now, where Reverend Hugh is unsettled to find the locals, or certainly the local men, pissing in the bushes.
Yeah, they're trying to get rid of the badgers.
Is that an Alison euphemism?
Who knows? Who knows?
He returns to the rectory and receives a message.
Yes, he's been asked to cover evensong at a neighbouring church this evening.
Alison is not happy, as she has her hospital visit to carry out. And we cut to later, with Polly having been roped in as the babysitter.
Along with Jonathan. Hugh is providing Jonathan with parish records for... He's obviously asked for a certain period of time, and they talk about how unlikely it was that they would still exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's births, deaths and marriages. And again, we find him being unhappy at being referred to as an angel.
Yeah, and his gaze drifts over to the painting.
Yeah. We get another point of view shot.
Yeah, it's tipping down with rain outside as Polly puts the baby down to sleep.
And Jonathan recounts a meeting in the post office with an admirer of his cherubhood.
Yeah, someone's been in to see the paint. I think he's made this story up, to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like the sort of village where someone would tell him that they liked the way his penis followed them around the room.
No. Polly asks about the marriage records he is reviewing, and at this, his long shot seems to pay off as he finds what he was looking for. Although Polly admits to not seeing it, whatever that is.
Yeah, she makes a joke about it being the God particle and lightning immediately strikes. So she's warned not to make such comments in the rectory again.
Jonathan is then startled. How? Why? What?
Yeah, he sees the green eyes of the beast in the garden.
Is that a euphemism?
The green eyes of the beast?
Yeah.
Only visible at night.
And so they head out into the garden to find a rubbish bag strewn open and something unidentifiable scurry away.
Yeah, they do. And a wee bit later, Jonathan discovers a human handprint in the mud.
Yeah, Polly, I think, claims it as a giant paw print at first.
Yeah, it's not.
No. And at this point, they hear the baby cry and so have to return to the house.
Yeah, but this has given Jonathan a bit of a nudge on the beast.
Is that another euphemism? Yeah, he seems to have a... Well, it's more than a nudge. He seems to have a eureka moment here as he's looking across the baby paraphernalia. Let's not go there.
Jonathan puts this to one side, though, to help with the baby. And we cut to a little bit later with the parents having returned to the home.
Where outside, he and Hugh discuss the significance of the ransacked bin bag, and Jonathan points to the sliced nature of it, which, in conjunction with the handprint and the green eyes, suggests something to him.
It does. And we see Jonathan over at the Upswitch House, hunting for something.
Yes, before clearly finding whatever it was he was looking for.
Yeah, but I think this is meant to be an extended period of time because we soon learn that he didn't get home until 6 a.m.
Yeah, you're right. It's the next morning where a knackered-looking Polly comes into the kitchen to find that Jonathan suited and booted, despite not returning from Ipswich's house until 6 a.m.
Yeah, she doesn't understand how he can sleep for 90 minutes and be fresh as a daisy while she's had 8 hours and she's wrecked.
Yeah. He then presents her with a number of Christmas cards that he found. That's what he was looking for. But she is in no state to work out what's put in front of her, and accepts that he will always be drawn to the mysterious.
It's a drug, isn't it? We're never going to wean you off. Pointless, I suppose, to even try.
Could have been a dead end. There's no guarantee. The old mental flow chart, one black bin bag led to another. 20 odd years worth of Christmas cards. If you're looking for an old family friend, seemed like a good place to start.
An old family friend. Who the hell is Ian Amory Cooper? Someone who's going to explain how a set of winning lottery numbers were painted on a wall 50 years before anyone picked them out.
That's what I'm hoping. I would try and take you through it, but first day back at the office. I know you don't want to be late.
And that's where we head.
Yes, where after seeing out some clients, Jonathan turns his attention to what has really caught his imagination.
Is it his unnaturally tidy desk?
Unnaturally for you.
For most people, I would suggest.
Yeah, I think Jonathan's got a touch of the OCDs.
Yeah, maybe.
And we see that he's been searching for this Captain Ian Amory Cooper.
Yeah, not on Google though.
No?
Search-wise.net.
Okay, tell me about that.
I can tell you about it now if you want, yeah.
Okay.
It's no longer an active site, but up until last year it was. It's a fake search engine set up by a company called CompuHire. And it says on it, this is not a real search engine. This site has been created as a film and TV prop website for legal clearance purposes. So CompuHire is a company that's been going since the 90s.
Yeah.
And they basically create graphics and screens. So like, if you need him to click on something and it does something, they'll create that process.
Yeah.
They also have old hardware, fake hardware and stuff that you can use this for films and TV. So it's literally created for this purpose.
There you go.
That's the least interesting bit of trivia we've ever had on the show.
I don't know about that. In any case, he doesn't seem to be satisfied until he stands and thinks back to the old video footage that they saw of Astrodamus. And it all appears to click at this point.
Well, there's a sort of a Sherlockian moment when he rewinds his memory to watch a video again that he saw days earlier.
And we cut to him arranging to meet with someone and tells Polly that he may be able to solve the puzzle with help from her and her womanly charms. And he goes on, I think, to mention about flushing out Corbin.
Yes, and we end up under a bridge.
We do, like a troll.
That's where they live.
Where, as instructed, they arrive at a soup kitchen and are met by Captain Cooper of the Salvation Army.
Ian Amory Cooper. He's serving soup to these homeless folk and comments that they won't eat any old slop.
Okay.
And Polly probably thinks not like the old days. Anyway, Jonathan explains that he figured out after fruitless searches for a military captain, Amory Cooper, that there'd been this Salvation Army fellow at the Astrodamus performance, and that led him to Ian Amory Cooper, who's a captain in the Sally Army, and probably plays the tuba.
No doubt. Where he apparently is happy to fill in the gaps in the story before being told that an appeal to the conscience of Corbin was made, and at this he duly appears on the scene.
Dressed as a recovering pervert.
Yep, and driving it under the bridge. You can't drive under a bridge like that.
Yeah, he's got his fancy car and his full tracksuit on.
It's the mark of the flasher.
Oh, that's shocking. A bit of a ropey start for the actor there as he delivers a really sort of grim opening line
What was
about
that?
not wanting any rhetorical questions and let's get on with this. But he eases into the role very quickly.
I mean, he's a nasty character who apparently has defrauded Cooper out of his lottery win, in addition to the other charges against him.
Yeah, Jonathan explains it all.
Yeah, well, you can explain it all to us, Ian.
Okay, Mr. Upswitch, we learn, knew Mr. Amory Cooper's parents, William and Winifred. Will and Win. Back in the days when telephones were first being installed in the village, he was contacted by one or other of them with both of their phone numbers.
Convenient.
At the time, he was preparing his room for wallpapering, and he only had the paint he was using for the skirting. So you've painted their names and their numbers on the wall, and presumably copied them down later. That explains why they're on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Amory Cooper explains that he didn't see it on the wall, didn't know anything about that, but he had seen it in another friend's address book or notebook, the Will Win, and then the 2 phone numbers, and it struck him that, I should play the lottery with those numbers because it says Will Win. It's quite amusing for him, so he's always played those numbers. And that one week, he dropped his ticket in the petrol station, it was picked up by Corbin, and he stole it. We then get an unnecessary shot of Corbin watching the lottery draw with a woman in her underwear, because there's not been a woman in her underwear for a good 20 minutes of this episode now. And he wins the money and he's all very excited, but presumably Amory Cooper knew immediately when Corbin claimed that was his ticket. Because otherwise the lottery would have said, it's shared jackpot, if there'd been another ticket with the same numbers.
Yeah.
So there's only one winner. He knows it's his ticket.
Uh-huh.
But he says he was away abroad doing missionary work, and so...
No, I think did he not say that he went abroad because of just to get away from that and to...
Yes, because he said you wouldn't want to know how I felt when the numbers came up.
Yeah, I think this is the type of thing that you could fairly easily get lawyers involved in and take to court.
I think so.
Because there'll be footage, there'll be obviously records of these, or this ticket being bought. He would have went back in, as we saw, to the petrol station to ask about his lost ticket. So the cashier would have confirmed that, he was there. I do remember that.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I could think of is he's so religious that he sees this as part of God's plan. And how's it done? But then if he was that religious, would he be playing the lottery?
Maybe, who knows. Perhaps if his intention was always to use the any winnings
altruistically. Yeah. Anyway, Jonathan has a solution, and it's not the legal solution that you or I would think of. Give all the money back to the guy who should have won it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, why don't you build a hostel for the homeless?
A hostel's not going to cost £3 million.
No, it would be a heck of a hostel if it did.
Yeah, a super hostel.
Yeah.
A hotel.
Yeah, people would become homeless to get to go to that hostel.
An apartment complex. Yeah, this is not a satisfactory conclusion, and by any means.
Polly is still working on anagrams and comes up with a name for the hostel.
What was that?
I don't know, but it was an anagram of Corbin's name.
Fair enough.
We get a brief shot now of the rectory where Alison goes out and Hugh makes a surreptitious phone call. It reminded me a bit of the Savant's Thumb.
Yeah, it's looking at the window. Yeah, you're right. Over at the Upswitch House, Polly and Jonathan turn up to welcome back the older boy and find him in bed and slightly full of himself.
Well, this is it. He's on the mend and he's had quite the time of it, and the TV people have been in to see him, magazines have been in, and he doesn't know Polly and Jonathan. That's the thing that struck me here. The only time he met Jonathan was seconds before he had a stroke, so probably doesn't remember. He certainly wouldn't know anything about him or who he was. He doesn't know Polly at all. Why are they strolling into his house?
Unless he has been briefed that they're coming and people
maybe
have explained who they are.
Greeley's there anyway, so he can maybe interpret these sorts of things for him.
Yeah.
He's considering, not Greeley, Ipswich is considering a comeback as Astrodamus, given the provenance that has come from
yeah. And the play, we see that the place has been redecorated, but
they've left the numbers up.
Yeah, as a centrepiece.
I like that. I thought that was quite good.
You would do that, I think.
Yeah. It appears that Jonathan's not gone public with his solution because Greeley makes some disparaging comments about his failure to resolve the matter, which is only added to the legend.
Before Jonathan gets a message on his phone and asks Greeley to step outside for a quick word.
Yeah, and before they get their quick word, we have another one of these brief rabbit moments where Polly goes to put some flowers down in the bedside cabinet, and Upswitch pulls his rabbit towards himself.
Yeah, causing her to have another strange sensation.
She's full of strange sensations.
Outside in the hall, Jonathan has this word with Greeley about hacking and journalistic ethics.
Mr. Greeley, much as we all value the role of your parish magazine in keeping us abreast of local news, I just wondered if you'd agree there are certain codes of practice to be observed in the gathering of that news.
Well, how do you mean? Of course, one would never want to cross the line into any, shall we say, unethical behaviour.
Oh, good. Well, I just wondered how you felt, Mr. Greeley, about the professional ethics of, for example, hacking into someone's baby monitor.
How would that work exactly?
Well, from your point of view, quite easily, I imagine. The stories come in, no questions asked. You just print them. Stories based on intimate conversations about badgers and Japanese knotweed in the privacy of someone's bedroom. Now, obviously, I can't reveal my sources, but it would appear that only 15 minutes ago, a rogue reporter was actually caught in the act.
Hi, it's me. Where are you? Yeah, sounds perfect. So, that little thing we discussed, you think now would be the right time to go for it?
Okay, so what was that little thing they discussed?
Okay, yeah, that was Reverend Hugh there at the end of the clip. And that was the phone call that we saw, or we talked about slightly earlier. What they're doing here is setting up this guy. It's Warwick. What he's been doing is sitting in their garden with a baby monitor receiver and tuning into their monitor and listening to their conversations to get the gossip. Obviously, the minister and his wife are privy to a lot of gossip in the town, so that's how he's been receiving it. And the green eyes are just the lights in the baby receiver. I didn't get that at first. I thought maybe he had night vision goggles or something.
Yeah.
But that's the two green lights on the
So,
receiver.
if it was Warwick all along, what was the sort of animal that they saw, that Jonathan saw scurry away when it was raining?
That was Warwick.
Was it?
He's on his hands and knees.
Right.
That's why there's a handprint.
Ah, okay. It's not that easy for a large human man to scurry away.
No, he's obviously been doing it for quite some time.
Yeah, why? I can understand if it's his job, right?
Yeah.
I don't agree with it, but if that's your career, but for a local parish newsletter,
Yeah, I almost wonder if there's like a missing bit of trivia, or not bit of trivia, bit of a story where it's revealed that he's tried training to be a journalist in New Zealand and he's getting some work experience before he goes back, and this is him trying to break stories.
maybe, but even that, it's not a great work experience for
No,
a
it's
parish
terrible.
newsletter.
It's rubbish.
A local parish paper's a different matter, perhaps.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah. Anyway, back up in the bedroom, we get a. This is dreadful. Tell me about it.
Oh yeah, Greeley says he's going to look into this matter, and when they return to Upswitch's bedside, they are shocked when the ghost-masked burglars appear behind them in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I mean, bloody hell. These are nighttime burglars. Most burglars, anyway, aren't armed robbers.
Yeah.
And this pair of buffoons.
They're idiot. And what do they expect to get? This guy's known to be poor.
Yes, he's just an old man who's moved back in. There are a group of people in his house. Why would you contemplate challenging them? For what?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And what happens?
Well, he pulls his rabbit over and then unzips it and pulls out a gun and starts shooting at them. That's also illegal.
Why has he got a gun?
Is it registered?
From the war? I mean,
No. And that doesn't tie into anything.
it can't be from the war. He's not that old.
No, yeah, even looking at the rabbit's appearances in the episode, knowing that it has a gun in it, it doesn't make any difference.
No.
There's nothing there. I don't understand.
I think they run off, don't they?
They run off terrified. Don't get caught though.
No,
It's just a hilarious escapade.
it's not.
No. Back at the Creek home, Jonathan's talking to the gardener.
Yeah, we're out in the garden woods, and it has been revealed that it is in fact, luckily, not Japanese knotweed.
No, it's not knotweed. It's something that looks like knotweed, but it's not knotweed.
Okay.
At this point, we have a dramatic resolution to Polly's C plot.
Yeah, what happened there?
This Sandman issue that's been troubling her the whole episode, she just remembers what it was.
Which was?
And it's something that she would never have forgotten in real life. It's
No.
ridiculous. Her pet rabbit died, or was needing to die, and the vet came to put it down.
Was needing to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was getting
It's getting put down.
put down because it was the end of life,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason.
Uh-huh.
It's not explained. And as a child, she didn't realise that the vet was doing a kindness to the rabbit and saw him as a figure of evil, and has dreamed about him ever since. Her parents, I think, referred to him as the Sandman, putting the rabbit to sleep.
Okay. The rabbit was then buried in the back garden,
Yes.
and her father planted planted carrots.
Yeah, her idea was that if they planted carrots, the rabbit would always have something to eat, but the father kept it going for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Even though she completely forgot that she even had a rabbit.
Yeah, how could she blank that? I mean, it's not that much of a trauma.
It's not traumatic enough that you would forget, but you would see the carrots and you would remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless she's got some kind of tumour or something that we're going to find out about.
Well,
That wouldn't be funny either, although probably this show would try and make it into a joke.
but as she's a fictional character, I would go with that if it got rid of her.
Well,
But yeah, so the whole thing was that Polly had a bad dream and then remembered what the bad dream was about. That was a plot in this episode.
Yes,
That's a plot point. Yeah.
well, yes, which was triggered by someone saying the word Sandman.
That got into the title.
Yeah, that as well.
It's just alliteration. Just like Sinner and Sandman.
And in case you don't think that's bad enough, we then get one final mystery
Yeah.
where Jonathan doesn't understand what Alison means by spreading his seed, and Polly urges him not to investigate.
Yeah. Although he does, I think, vow to get to the bottom of it.
That's not even a metaphor.
No. And there we have it. Yeah, I think I said at the start of the podcast, nothing of interest. I mean, I really didn't care about any of these.
Yeah, it's like if you did a TV show where a guy gets up and goes to his work and then he goes home and has his dinner. So it's about as interesting as the mysteries in this episode.
Poor effort. I think what we can do is we're coming to the end of this podcast run, obviously, and in the final wrap-up episode, we'll discuss what we liked about the show overall, improvements, things that we didn't think worked.
Yep.
And I think we can chat about some of these weaknesses. And
Got a season review coming up in the next episode as well.
maybe not, to be honest. Because I'm looking at some of a lot of not applicables.
Everything's not applicable.
Let's crack on with that anyway, as you've brought it up.
Okay.
The 7th of March 2014 was the original air date, and it was again directed by David Sant. Selena Griffiths played Alison. She was born in 1969 and has appeared in Benidorm, Cuckoo, Psycho Bitches, Cranford, The Smoking Room, and is the daughter of Michael Griffiths and Jonathan Creek alumni Annette Crosby.
House of Monkeys.
Indeed. The Reverend Hugh was portrayed by James Bachman, and he was born in 1972. I know him from a fantastic, perhaps cult show you might call it, with Steve Coogan, Saxondale.
Okay.
I would thoroughly recommend that, very funny. He's also been in one of the Transformers movies, don't know which one, can't be bothered. Millie in Between, Peter Jackson's Video Diary, Sorry I've Got No Head, and That Mitchell and Webb Look, amongst other things. And as you noted earlier on, he has an uncredited role as the same character in the previous episode, Septimus. David Gant played Eric Upswitch, born in 1943 in Scotland. He has appeared in Braveheart, Brazil, Holby City, Sherlock, Doctors, Uncle Jack and the Loch Ness Monster, Gandhi, and Sapphire and Steel. He was a banker until he was 30, but changed careers to become an actor and model. And in fact, if you search for him, you can still see him on the catwalk to this date. He studied at the Royal Society of, what do you call it?
The Conservatorium.
That's the one.
RSAMD.
Michael Troughton played Leonard Corbin. He was born in 1955 to Father Patrick Troughton, one of the doctors. For me, certainly most known for The New Statesman, but has also been in Sean's show, Doctor Who himself, in 2014. Lucy Sullivan is Getting Married, Retrace, Woof, The Bill, Minder, and My Brother Jonathan. And finally, Crispin Gilpin was played by Tim Faraday. I think we might have a bingo here, the full set.
Whoa.
He has been in Casualty, Coronation Street, Innocent, Witless, Doctors, Da Vinci's Demons, EastEnders, The Bill, and Doctor Who from 2006.
I think that's a bingo. He didn't have Holby, but it's close enough.
I thought his IMDb trivia contained some funny lines. He has never seen any of the Star Wars or Harry Potter movies and is excessively fond of curry.
Did he write that himself, do you
I
think?
don't know, but it's not like he is very fond of it, or it's excessively, which means he eats far too much of it. Dangerous amounts of curry.
Do you know anyone else who's excessively fond of curry?
I'm very fond of it. I'm not sure if I would say. In fact, I think I might have one tonight.
I'm moderately fond of it, but I had one at the weekend, so I won't be having one tonight.
No, it's my favourite food. Do you have any trivia?
Yeah, a little bit about 10 Rillington Place.
Okay.
Because people might not know the story about why would that be a creepy address. It was where the serial killer John Christie lived, obviously, but it's most well known, I would think, for the story of Timothy Evans, his neighbour, who was wrongfully convicted and hanged for the murder of his wife and daughter, killings which were later found to have been committed by Christie.
Mm-hmm.
That led, or was one of the major things that led to the abolition of capital punishment for murder in the UK.
The only thing I have is that Horace Greeley was named for the co-founder of the New York Tribune in 1841.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm.
Episode review now doesn't really work, but we'll give it a shot anyway. Motive, well,
whose motive for what?
There was no motive.
To remember the phone numbers.
Clues are all over the place, but we've got the missing piece of plaster, the baby monitor, the Christmas cards, and the marriage records. But that's all for different things, and I really can't be bothered trying to.
Yeah. The handprint.
Yeah, the gotcha was what the
under the bridge with Corbin, I guess. But called him out.
Yeah, but wasn't it gotcha? They asked him to turn up, and he did.
Yeah.
He must have known why he was turning up.
Yeah, well, they were able to show that the numbers weren't random, so that's the gotcha. He was saying it was picked at random, and they weren't.
From guilt, well, I mean, I'm not sure.
He killed the rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next time we have The Curse of the Bronze Lamp, the penultimate episode that we're going to review.
Yeah, the last of season 5.
Yeah.
And we should say to folk, I've put it out on Twitter a wee while ago, but Demon's Roost is going to be on Netflix now, as you hear this. It came on in June, so you'll be able to hear that ahead of our final episode.
Okie dokie. Well, until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.